Welcome to heaven. I am Yong Yea. I play Enrico Pucci in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I play Yasutaka Shirakawa in Lost Judgment and Kaito Files, Madeline Cookie in Cookie Run Kingdom. I have a list here, Homelander in Death Battle, and among many others that I've just had such a great honor to be able to bring to life. And this is the Points of Experience podcast.
Double trouble, dude. That was double trouble.
What the hell just happened? Did we just have another insane episode of Pox, dude?
Poxing? We were poxing out, dude. We got so poxed on this one, dude.
It appeared that we were poxing out. I'm just saying.
Isn't it crazy how we get these fantastic guests? We get these fantastic guests.
Yeah, I'm
like
not sure
Yong
what
Yea.
that is, but we had some pretty cool guests so far.
Yeah, we're very privileged, and as you all just heard, Yong Yea, one of the greatest actors, as well as most influential people in terms of the gaming content community, with his reviews, his overviews of news that goes on. I've been a fan of his work, and I've watched his videos before I even knew him as a voice actor, and then to know that he has been absolutely slaying in this industry, working on JoJo's, God of War, Cookie Run Kingdom. He's just one of the most naturally gifted actors. I know he's not going to agree with that, and we get into this into the video, but his capacity for creating characters, just go to his YouTube and watch his, he's got a long demo of all of the characters he's done, and I compliment him on this in the show, but just go and listen to the range that this guy has, and the fact that we haven't heard from him sooner because he decided to take on a career as a YouTuber amassing an audience over 1 million people. All right, Yong, we understand you had to do that. Great, but please, more voiceover.
Imagine 1 million people watching you do something. Imagine
that's obviously
like a PB&J, and there's 1 million people just watching you do it. Would
Isn't that a ridiculous way?
Would that change how you make it?
For the average person, I imagine sure, but that's the reality of what YouTube is literally it's you doing kind of daily life sometimes, or just talking to a camera like he talks about, just being himself. But in reality, it's like you said, you have a stadium just watching you do what you do. Mm-hmm. It's insane. It's multiple stadiums for him. This episode, I selfishly had one of the best times I could, geeking out over some of my favorite games and stuff. And as we found out, Joe, he's a fan of everything that we love. Impeccable taste. Impeccable taste, Yong Yea.
God of War references. Just I still have Ratchet and Clank on my PS5 that I just finally got. Consumerism is, that's +1 for consumerism, because now people can actually buy PlayStations and graphics cards now, because the world is returning back to a non-zombie like state. So that's always a great thing.
Slowly but steady, we'll have it won't be a rarity to have a 3080, right? Because you're now the proud owner of a new 3080.
Listen,
right?
It's in transit, so
not even yet. Until it gets there, I'll believe it when I see it.
Hold on. Let's take it a little slower here. But you know what?
Everybody, this...
Oh.
Yeah, I was... What do you got to say?
Out?
You said you got something? No.
I got something.
What do you got to say for me here, bud?
All right. I want to say that something that Yong said that resonated with me was, and you guys will hear this very shortly, but he mentioned how... people didn't think he can do expressions and voice acting because of his demeanor. And he went ahead and said, you know what? Fuck you. And he crushed it. So that's just some motivation for everybody. Don't listen to
he
anybody,
is.
dude. Just don't listen to
Really
anybody.
believe in yourself. Kick butt. We talk a lot about kicking butt this episode. If you are interested in content creating, getting into the gaming industry in some capacity, or being a voice actor, I mean, Yong is a shining example of, coming from humble beginnings and then deciding to take a crazy leap into becoming a content creator, and then, pivoting a little bit to say, I love doing something and I'm just going to do it for the love of it. All right, dude. You know what I actually wanted to ask you is, what is the brand of headset that you're wearing?
Brand of headset that I'm wearing right now is Audio Technica Broadcast. I forget the exact name. It's a bunch of letters and numbers. It is an Audio Technica. I have the box back there, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can reach it from here without disconnecting everything.
Dude, we got the same chair.
Yeah, I'll. Oh, we do. Secret Lab. Hell yes.
Yeah.
Represent. Yeah, these are real company. This one's kind of old. It's like the where my seat is, it's scraping off some stuff here and there, so I gotta get a new one soon. But no, I love this. It's reliable, comfortable. Yeah. You can like lean it all the way back and you just like take a nap.
Oh, dude, I call it the blast off function, when you rip that thing back and you just blast off into. It's so great.
Yeah.
But I was asking you about the headset, because you record all your videos with that microphone on the headset, right?
Yeah, I do. And that's because I currently have an apartment setup, and I can't really mess around too much with this environment without messing stuff up.
Yeah.
So I try to keep things, clean and make sure I can move out without them getting mad at me.
Yeah.
And so this room is not super sound treated as much as I'd like. And so this just really cancels out a lot of the background noise and echo and stuff like that, and I can keep the mic real close. And I can also move my head around without having to worry about whether the audio cuts in and out and stuff like that. So
it's brilliant.
It's kind of worked out for me. Yeah, but
it sounds great.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. Once I get into a proper house, I'll do the whole setup, sound treat everything, and have shotgun mics maybe, and just to give me a little more freedom.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has worked out so far. So
I mean, don't tell my landlord, but I'm renting this place, and I was like, I have to do it.
There are ways to do it where it's just I live in LA, by myself. My family's all they're all back in Delaware, and so if one day when I do move out, I don't want to have to go through too much trouble of having to tear everything down and everything. I figured out I'll get myself really set up when I move into a proper house.
It's very smart. When I left New York, it was a nightmare, because I had treated my closet. There was a closet I did, and I put up these foam, the foam things.
Yeah.
And someone's like, yeah, use this adhesive spray. It'll be perfect. You can just peel them off. And then it destroyed everything. So I spent a good couple days trying to fix what I destroyed, and I got my security deposit back, so I won the game.
Awesome. I do have a closet right next to me that's pretty big, and that's where I do record from home, and there I do have some acoustic panels, but I use those, I forget what they're called. Use them for posters, or they're two sides to it. You rip off the little thing, so both sides have a little sticker on them, and I use super glue to attach one side to the panels, and I use 4 of them, and then I just really press it on there. Some of them have fallen because minor earthquakes here and there. They just kind of fall off a little bit. But overall, it's actually held up pretty well.
Dude, whatever works, and I think that's another thing people don't realize, is that whatever works is truly for voiceover. Whatever works. Some people have blankets and PVC skeletons, and some people use their closets, some people use a whole room, some people use the studio bricks, and we're all working on the same stuff. You
really don't have to break the bank. I also have blankets in there as well alongside the acoustic panels. It looks pretty rough. It's not what you'd think in terms of a professional studio, but you have to sound professional. It doesn't have to look professional.
Yeah.
And so, you can get a $1,000 mic, but if it's not sound treated properly, it's still going to sound like crap. And so finding creative solutions to do that in a cheap way is, it's a fun challenge in its own way. I don't know.
Yeah, and you get to find your own kind of identity, or your way of navigating the whole hack setup stuff, because everybody's is different. There's no unless you have a studio bricks, which a lot of people do. There's no identical setups. Everybody has their own take on it, which is fun.
Yeah, some people they go on vacation. They just take a blank over them and record that way, and it works. It's a little rudimentary, if you will, but hey, gets the job done, and people have recorded that way, auditions and productions and stuff. So get creative, whatever works.
Yeah, that's gonna be me all next week when I'm traveling. It's gonna be me.
Right. Yeah. I think you showed me like a photo, I think, of a setup when you were vacationing.
Yes. Yeah.
That was on Twitter. I think I saw it. Maybe.
Yeah. But the same thing at this point. We with social media, we are all basically just hanging out every single day. We feel like we're a part of everybody's daily life, which is
for sure.
Which is a great segue here. I mean, thanks to a wonderful mutual friend of ours, but you knew him before I did, Ryan Colt Levy, who we had on last episode. He introduced me to you very graciously, and I thought we got along pretty well. And you are such a great human and extremely talented actor, as I've gotten
likewise,
to
man.
Know your work. And congratulations to you on for those anyone who doesn't know right now, I mean, we're going to get into it in a couple of minutes here. You had a career on YouTube, which is, I guess at this point from my research, if it serves me correct, you've broken the 10-year anniversary. You've done YouTube for a decade.
Yeah. Oh my God. I never even thought about it, but yeah, you're right.
Now that you say it out loud, it sounds
mortality. Stark reminder.
But that's a huge, it's a great lesson here, and that's something we love to talk about on the podcast is the amount of, they say, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours or whatever it is, you've been doing YouTube for however long, and you've been immersed in the gaming industry and understanding video games for, what I imagine is your whole life. And now that you've gotten to venture into this different part of the industry, it's got to feel like almost like you've branched off the road in a way, and you get to explore something really new and fun that's still, on that same path that you were on.
Yeah, it's fascinating to be both a voice actor and someone who covers video games, because I know about projects that I can't say anything about, but I'm so excited for them, and so I have to play it off a little bit, in some of my news. For example, so recently Norman Reedus basically blurted out Death Stranding 2 is in the works, and I had heard rumblings about that before that, so there's the little things like that I know about, but obviously I can't say much more.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to navigate that, but also, I've loved gaming. I mean, gaming has been a part of my life since as far as I can remember. And I've always been that guy my friends would come to be like, hey, what's the latest in terms of gaming news? And because I'd be the guy who would come home from school, and the first thing I'd do is boot up the web browser, go to IGN, all these different outlets, and look up all the news and really stay up to date on everything. And now to be sort of on this other side of that fence, where I'm being a part of some of these projects and seeing how it all works behind the scenes. And I was part of this performance capture thing a few months ago, and seeing how all that works. And I've seen it in behind the scenes videos and everything, but to be a part of that and seeing the whole process happen, it's been a fascinating and educational and really fulfilling thing for me.
Gosh, I mean, the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be making them. Is that the next step on this journey? You're designing the games?
Man, who knows? Maybe down the line one of these days, I'd love to give it a go, maybe. It's tough, though. It's not a forgiving career path being a game developer. You hear all these stories, but, if I can somehow run something there and kind of direct something, I hope I can make sure everyone's treated properly and that there is a good creative vision that everyone's behind. But that'd be ways down the line. There's so much going on in my life right now. That's I can't think about that right now. But maybe one day, yeah.
Well, I think you'd be fantastic at directing. I mean, you have such an understanding of this industry and what people like and what the problems that arise for certain things. That's don't count it out. If the opportunity comes a knocking, I think you say yes.
Yeah. I'll definitely keep that in mind, and I'll definitely keep you in mind for something.
Fantastic. Well, I want to know, and we'll get. I would love to build up to how the YouTube to voice acting happened, but I would love for people to get to know you if they don't know you already, and kind of how your whole story came about, especially how you kind of started falling in love with video games and then starting a YouTube channel. And you grew up in Venezuela, correct? And then at some point your family moved to Delaware. Can you talk me through kind of the childhood to where that all happened?
Yeah. I mean, one of the first memories I have is playing Mega Man 3 on the NES, and just all of us trying to beat this very, very difficult game. But yeah, I grew up in Venezuela, and they had enough gaming stuff there, and piracy was big in Venezuela because we just didn't get the products officially on the capacity that America does. And so, you could literally buy consoles that had all the, ROMs installed in them and stuff. So,
wow,
yeah,
back then? Wow, that's crazy.
Even back then, there's some modders pulled some stuff. But yeah, mom and dad weren't super into me playing games, especially in my later years as I grew out of my childhood, and they're like, all right, now you got to study. But I could never fall out of love with them, and so I'd always just keep playing video games. And my first language I learned was Spanish, technically the one that I mastered, and then Korean came along because my parents would speak to us in Korean. And then English I learned from first grade to second grade. I was tutored, and then from third to eighth they threw me in this American school in Venezuela. So I was surrounded by Americans who had migrated to Venezuela. And at that point, it was like sink or swim. I learned English, or my education would go down the drain. And being surrounded by people who speak that language, I picked it up eventually 5 years later.
Yeah.
And then, and throughout all that, playing games. And weirdly, back then, I didn't like acting, which is interesting. I was in a few productions and stuff, and I'm like, God, I hate it. It sucks. And I think maybe it was more to do with the production or the people I was surrounded by, or I don't know, something. But
you had that inclination to gravitate towards the theater, right? That was something was in there to like, you're like, I want to try this, or I want to see what it's about.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know what it was about those experiences that left me like, oh, this isn't for me. And then it was more when I got to high school and I did my first like musical in the form of Bye Bye Birdie, and I played like an ensemble member, but that was a great experience, very collaborative. The people were great, and that's when I really fell in love with acting. But by the time I got to the U.S., I was 14, and at that point, I knew English well enough where I could get by, but leaving friends and family, family came with me, friends mostly behind, and some like close Korean friends who we considered family, leaving them behind. That was tough. But eventually, I settled into the United States, and in junior year of high school, I did Bye Bye Birdie, and that's when for the first time I considered how much I love this thing, and I kept auditioning and doing musicals. And then when I got to college, I went to this community college because immigration stuff didn't allow me to get the reduced tuition fee of the University of Delaware, which is where I grew up, and that's where I was originally set to go. But
bogus.
Yeah. That was a whole mess that basically forced me to go to a community college that was cheaper and still great teachers, great everything.
Yeah.
But I wanted that full college experience. But UD, as it's known, did have a theater, various theater clubs. And so I would sneak in there and pretend like I'm one of the UD students, and I actually auditioned for their stuff. And eventually they found out I'm not actually a student, but they didn't care. They're like, yeah, whatever, just come on, whatever, audition for stuff. And I did a bunch of musicals and plays there, and that really was where I got a lot of my experience, just like doing the acting and getting better, and seeing other people's work and sort of taking in what they were doing, the choices they were making on stage. That was tremendously helpful in being able to get my acting chops, if you will. I never really took a formal class or anything like that. I just sort of learned by doing it. And this ties into YouTube because the way I got into the first video that I uploaded, the reason I uploaded it was because I wanted to see how good my British accent was, because I was auditioning for this musical that involved, and one of the roles involved me doing a British accent. And so I'm like, who's actually going to be honest with me about, the internet, of course. They don't mince words. So I decided, all right, I'll talk about games or something. I like talking about games. And there's this channel called Project Cheerio that is up there still probably. It's like over a decade old at this point. And there's a guy there with a really, really awful British accent talking about games. And I did that for a bit, and the British people didn't buy it. It was awful. They were like, what is this thing you're doing? What's up with the accent? Where are you from? I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, so I shouldn't audition for this role. My British accent's clearly not good enough at this stage.
Joe, let's find this right now.
I'm on it.
No, stop. Eventually, though, I realized I was really enjoying this YouTube thing, talking about games. And, British accent aside, people were receptive to the content that I was making and the news that I was covering and stuff like that. And so eventually I was like, all right, let's move away from this Project Cheerio nonsense. Let's start a proper channel and do this thing for real. And then I eventually began to realize I stopped caring about my studies, which is what I was always kind of dictated to, like, this is your future, study. I sort of started like not caring about, like, I went from an A student to a B student in college, but I once upon a time that would have like torn me apart. At this point I was like, I don't care. I like this thing that I'm doing. At that point my brother was going to college. He was at UD, but at the higher tuition fee. My parents can afford sending both of us to college, so I figured this would be a good opportunity to present the proposal of, I'll take a break from college while my brother is doing his thing. I'll do this YouTube thing, see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, I'll go back to college at some point. And hesitantly, my parents were like, all right, fair enough. That would help financially, and you can do your thing. And they were very apprehensive about it because they were so much about me becoming a doctor or a lawyer, typical story. But yeah, eventually the YouTube stuff, I covered Skyrim, and that's when I first kind of began to get known. And then Metal Gear came along, and nobody was filling that space. I was like, why is nobody covering Metal Gear, like one of my favorite franchises of all time? So I'm like, screw it. I'll take on that mantle. I love talking about this series. Started doing Metal Gear Solid 5 coverage, and that's when I became known as like the Metal Gear guy, essentially. And that's where I kind of started to gain traction as a YouTuber. And that's one of the things I'd recommend if you want to do content creation, is like try to fill spaces that other people aren't doing. Because if you just become another Let's Play channel, it's like everyone's doing Let's Plays. You have to really stand out as a Let's Player to have people watch you instead of all these other already established Let's Players. So I wanted to cover something that nobody else seemingly was covering to a high degree, and that was Metal Gear. And then from there, the Kojima Konami stuff happened, and what I thought would be a Metal Gear channel suddenly had to evolve. And fortunately, I had covered other games here and there, Final Fantasy 15, Fallout 4, and eventually I figured, let's just expand and like cover everything, games industry stuff. I had enough of a following where generally viewership was all right, and fortunately that expansion to just general games industry stuff worked. And that's when I really grew as a YouTuber. My channel really got big sort of around 2017. And people were especially receptive to just my frustrations with aspects of the games industry, the monetization stuff, Battlefront 2 and that stuff. That happened in 2017, and my coverage of that, a lot of people, like, it resonated with them because a lot of people were frustrated that the potential of this game got marred by just business BS, corporate BS. And so I began leaning more towards that as well, but still reviewing games and covering games along the way.
Do you mind if I take a step back for a second and just say what? So, like, you did the British accent video, which was for your play or whatever musical, kind of shenanigans you were getting yourself into.
Right.
What was where did you have that light bulb moment of saying, okay, I uploaded a video on YouTube, it was for this, but now I want to upload a video that's about gaming? What was the inception for that?
Well, the British channel thing, it was gaming news just in a British accent. So like from the outset, I was already doing gaming news, but it's just like as I kept uploading, I began to realize how much I was enjoying doing it. And that I wanted to do it properly without the freaking dumb British accent, the fake British accent or whatever. And then, as I kept doing it more and as people began to receive it well, I was like, oh, man, I could actually do this thing. And then a network, as it was known back then, MCN or whatever, approached me and said, you can make money off of this. You know that? I'm like, no, you can make money off of YouTube videos. And that's when I considered it as a potential career path if it takes off. At the time, I was just doing it as a hobby, as a thing that I'm like, I enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's most important for people to understand, is because a lot of people think I'm gonna. I always have a hard problem swallowing the idea of like, I'm gonna do this to become rich and famous, because it's like, I feel like they're skipping a whole bunch of steps where it's like, you got to fall in love with something first, and then that needs to lead you to like falling in love with you especially for YouTube, I'm imagining, you got to fall in love with the subject matter first. Then you got to fall in love with making content around that subject matter. And you have to stick it out until, people find it and respond to it. And then it's like, okay, great. Now I can consider making a career out of this. There's like a...
Correct. Yeah. That is 100% how it should be approached, because people will sense when you're passionate about the subject or, whatever type of content you're making. If you really love doing it, it'll just come through and it'll feel genuine. And, people come to your content because of the thumbnail and the headline or whatever, but they stay for you. They stay for that loyalty comes from like, I want to like stay with this person, not this one video is cool. I'm sure all of them will be awesome as well. Maybe you'll form that impression, but it's like they want to feel like they're hanging out with you. I think that's what's special about the YouTube landscape is it feels less separated compared to like a late night show type of thing where it's all very glamorous and whatever. This is just me sitting down with a bunch of freaking collectibles behind me with a camera. It's very like, it's very makeshift. I'm not doing anything crazy here, but there's this connection that forms because it just feels like I'm hanging out with my audience and I'm just talking about things that we have common interests in. And that creates that loyalty. That creates that I want to hang around with this guy for the long term. And the passion behind the subject is a big aspect of why people, stick with you.
Have you felt Have you felt your relationship change with the audience since you started doing voice acting, whether that be through people who are fans of yours from the channel, of the YouTube channel, or fans of you as voice actors? Have you felt a shift in some capacity from like, okay, now I'm not just the guy saying like, this is what I think about this game and stuff. Now you're kind of a public figure who now is commenting on certain things. Have you felt that kind of happen with you as you started doing more?
Not really. Honestly, people have been really supportive, honestly, the folks on my channel. Initially, when I first announced, okay, guys, I'm making this move to LA and I'm going to pursue voice acting, there was some trepidation initially because in my videos, I speak very kind of flat.
Yeah.
I don't emote too much. Occasionally, I'll express frustration or joy.
You don't go,
oh yeah, like during live streams, especially during these crazy announcements that I never expected. Yeah, I'll definitely have moments like that. But generally, I try to report the news sort of in as kind of an even-keeled way as possible.
Yeah.
And so people are like, can you really like emote and pull off all these characters and emotions? And then as I started doing it, and people are like, wait, you're Poochie and JoJo? And suddenly people are like, wait, maybe there's something there. And then I put out my visual reel, be like, I don't know, what do you guys think? Am I doing it? And people are like, holy shit, like I never expected these characters could come from you. And we are like fully backing you. And now people are very like just excited that both they get to see the guy who gives them the gaming news, and also that guy gets to be some of the characters in games that they love. And so it's just been really, really supportive, honestly, from my community.
That's amazing.
I didn't know what to expect on that front, but for those in the Yong Yea community watching this right now, honestly, like it means more than to have that backing, that imposter syndrome is a big part of being a voice actor sometimes, but to have people be like, you know what, you're doing it, man, like I'm digging what you're doing here, I love your work, to have that sort of feedback, it means a lot, so I'm grateful.
So much, and that's fantastic that it goes back to you being the type of person you are and creating that environment, so you're attracting certain people who are responding to the type of platform that you've created. So it's not like while you are critical of certain things and certain people and aspects of the industry, it's not like you're a sandbag channel where you're just beating up people and poking fun at other people. And it's not like no offense. I mean, I don't know the
drama stuff.
Drama alert. It's not like that's your kind of your ploy, or just saying why these games suck. It's very critical. You're very critical from a and we'll jump to this in a second, but I don't want to get too far. But I watched a lot of your videos covering the Sonic stuff, and I felt that it was you were very fair in your assessments. And actually, let's just jump into this question right now because it's so tangible to it. It's like, you truly covered and commented on like a lot of aspects of the way that was happening with like the Sonic movie. And I was like really curious. I'm like, do you feel specifically with that, the way that played out, Is that the way studios and these type of properties need to have interaction with the fans and the audience, where it's like you have people on YouTube like yourself saying, listen, this is my voice, but I also speak not directly for a lot of people, but a lot of people who are coming here are hitting like on my video and agreeing with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look at what I'm saying here. Like, we don't respond to this. Maybe it can be done, I guess, from other channels, not so mean. Maybe they could be a little bit more constructive in the criticism. But do you think that that's the way, like the golden way of which things should have happened? Did you respect the way that they took care of the Sonic thing? I mean, obviously people were really like outraged and like laughing hysterically at it at first. But to see it come to the full circle, what did you think about that whole process?
So on one hand, I'm in full support of creatives trying something new and something different. You know, it's like I remember when God of War, the 2018 God of War was first announced, and it was a very different vibe from the original, and some people kind of took that wrong, but I felt, okay, it's different, but it still looks good. You know what I mean? It just isn't what many of us expected. There's still a lot of craftsmanship that was being put on there that looked like it could turn out to be something really incredible. The Sonic situation was unique in that I genuinely really felt like what they showed was just like, I almost want to say objectively awful. You know what I mean? Even though it's subjective ultimately. Maybe some people liked it. It's still subjective.
I was thinking about that. You think anybody did actually like, yeah, I love that?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know anyone who
I don't
actually
either.
went and said, it looks all right. Everyone was like, this is terrifying. So that was a unique situation where I felt they were going in such a wrong direction that in this situation, I was like, please listen to what people are saying. Usually I'm open for you trying something new, but this new thing you're trying is just bad. Like, it's awful. And so there is some semblance of that I think is good to have, some semblance of back and forth. I also do think audiences need to kind of let artists try different things. Sometimes people are a bit too inflexible on that front. You know what I mean? So there's like both sides. I think they need to be considerate of the other. But in the case of something like Sonic, it's such a beloved IP. A lot of people grew up with this thing. And to, for lack of better words, butcher the design to that degree, I felt like that in that situation, they really, really did need to listen to what people were saying, especially because they were appealing to gamers. I mean, this is a gaming property. And if everyone was basically near universally saying this looks freaking awful, it's like there's clearly something there you have to take and like do something seriously with.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they did, because I genuinely believe it saved the movie that they redesigned Sonic to it almost ended up working in favor of them, because suddenly the Sonic movie blew up because of this whole sort of controversy, if you will. But the fact that they rectified it and they did right by the design, you know, and still did enough different with it. It's not exactly a copy and paste of, you know, the original design, but it was familiar enough and like endearing looking enough instead of terrifying with the final design that people are like, all right, this I'm behind. And the fact that there was a respect of like, these are Sonic fans, and there's certain check marks you have to check off with the design that they're like, all right, we need to go back to the drawing board. That sort of turned the bad will around to goodwill, and I think paved the road to some great success. I did hear about the 3D modelers and stuff. Like there's been some layoffs, and I don't know if you heard about this. I think it was in Canada or something. A lot of folks were working on the redesign aspect, and then a bunch of layoffs happened there before the movie came out, even though they worked so hard on this thing. I forget the exact reason, but that whole situation was really scummy, and a lot of like visual effects artists are treated like crap.
I saw that whole article about the conditions that Marvel, they're experiencing with that, and that's a whole other. It's like we see, you know, the flashy lights at the end of the day, but we don't really understand that there's a lot of exploitation that happens to, particularly the faces you don't see. Like it's not Ben Schwartz and everybody else who are the stars of these movies and the directors and the producers that go and shake the hands on the red carpet. It's the people that are actually like, you know, hammer and nail making these things that aren't often looked after, because it's such a demanding industry. And the part about the Marvel thing that really struck a chord with me was like, you know how many things are just coming out right now that they're just like, I feel like, especially in the movie situation, there's such a, like, these comic book properties are stampeding the industry in the movie theaters, where they're just like, let's just keep it going. Just put the gas, the foot to the
foot on the gas
gas,
pedal,
you know? And there's so much, I think, there's a lot of compromise that happens with things like that.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, visual effects artists are highly underrated, because when visual effects are good, it's like we don't even like notice them, because it's so well integrated that it becomes a subconscious thing of like, this just looks good, but we don't really give it the credit it deserves. But if it looks wrong, then, oh my God, these visual effects artists, what are they doing? Right? It's like only when things look wrong or sound wrong, suddenly we start paying attention or start giving the discredit. But if everything's working just right, it's like you don't call customer service, be like, by the way, I just wanted to let you know you guys are awesome. Okay, that's it. That's the call I made. Okay, bye.
Yeah. You
call customer service because, usually have a gripe about something, right? It's like that kind of thing where visual effects artists often get the boot from people when things look bad, but don't get the credit when things look good.
Yeah.
And then the way companies mistreat them and overwork them, it's a shame. Really
happens a lot in the anime community, which also maybe this is a nice segue back into our conversation. I mean, obviously the anime, that's a whole other culture and work experience that they're dealing with, and particularly in Japan. But by gosh, when you were questioning if can I do this, like when I heard you as Poochie, I was like, I can't believe that you haven't been doing this for 10 years. Wow. It's like, and when I watched your reel, because it's not even really a reel, it's like, this is like, you're like, this is what I've done, like here's like what I've done. And I was just so impressed by how much your capacity for just creating characters. There's so much variation in what you've had to do, and it's more impressive. And this is not going to sound as impressive, but because of the time, like just face value, you've only been doing this for as long as I have. I mean, you moved out here. Actually, that's not true. I've been doing this, and you've already surpassed me in terms of what you've been able to achieve in the voice acting world. I mean, you started voice acting in what, 2019, right? It's 2022.
Yeah, I moved to LA in May of 2019. 2020, like January, is when I like started to send out my reels, and that's when I got my first, VO gig in LA, if you will. So I've been doing this for 2.5 years now. Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And the fact that you've here's the point I was trying to make. Typically at the start of somebody's career, it's a very, you can see like, okay, that person is this voice, or they play these type of characters. It's pretty much with me. It's the way that I've, in these past few years, it's like, yeah, this guy's going to play some young, spunky, bombastic, whatever characters, right? He's going to ride that. And then occasionally I'll get the opportunity to take a foot out of that box and, play in this sandbox for a little bit. I feel like I was like, I'm like, what is this guy? What are you? Like, what is your type? Because you just do, you can do everything. And it was just so impressive for me to see that in such a small amount of time. I hope you understand that that's extremely remarkable. And for anybody who's an aspiring voice actor, like, that is an insanely hard feat to accomplish, especially being a new person in a brand new market that isn't as competitive as voice acting is.
Oh man, I I don't know what to say. I mean, that means a lot coming from you, because I mean, I love the work that you've done, from Bell to Neo. I mean, you were in Lost Judgment, kind of files together. I love your work there. So, man, to have that kind of endorsement from you, like it takes me aback, and it means a lot. I don't know. I've always loved to just play around with I'll like watch a movie, and then like if a certain line is interesting, I'll like just start like doing that line to myself and like trying different. I don't know. Like I sound like a nut. Like I should be in a nut house if you watch me by myself in my house. I'm always like playing scenes in my head. It's weird. But yeah, I don't know. I've always had this playful side of like doing weird voices in front of my little sister when she was growing up and stuff like that. I've just always gravitated towards just coming up with characters, and I'm glad it comes across in a way where it feels like I'm putting distinct and interesting characters out there. And just it's so hard as an actor for me to sometimes know if I'm good. I feel like all actors kind of have that element of like, am I good?
After every first session, I'm expecting to get the call from my agent saying, "Hey, Paul, it was great what you did, but we're gonna go in another direction." And I'm like expecting that every time.
Nah, man, no. I've loved the work that you've done. And yeah, this coming from you, really, it means more than you know. And I hope to just keep on going, keep on making folks happy or sad or emotional or whatever it is that my character can bring out of people. And really, to me, that's the joy of it. It is what people get out of these characters.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I can, for a moment, have them forget about everything else and just like focus on who this character is and how that affects their outlook on aspects of life. Like that to me is the reward of this.
Well, I would say that you. I can tell, and I'm making an assumption here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you care so much about the final products of these things. Like as a gamer, as somebody who has enjoyed this medium and has shaped their entire life, and that's the way I feel to a degree, but I'm assuming it's similar for you. Like there is no compromise in terms of the amount of hard work you have to put into whatever you're doing. It's all or nothing. It's
100%.
And and I believe that comes across in the things that you're doing. And there is this sense of even just when I just met you, I'm like, oh, Yong's super chill, like super relaxed guy. And then I see these performances, and it's like you turn it on. Like me, I'm a little bit of a bouncing jelly bean when people meet me, and it like makes sense when I'm doing that. But to see you be able to just tap into that and activate that, it says to me a lot about the type of performer you are. And also, it makes me curious, like, you did theater and all these things in high school. At what point, you're doing YouTube, it's pretty successful, you're having fun, you've grown this channel. At what point did you say, this is great, this is fun, but I want to start taking a stab at performing? When did that change happen?
Yeah, so there came a point in my community theater career where I just had to stop because the YouTube stuff just started to get a lot, and I just wouldn't have time to balance both. I mean, theater is time-wise very demanding. You just have to be there every day. I mean, tech week is freaking insane. And I just couldn't do that anymore if I wanted to just like really fully go full-time with YouTube. And so I did that for a couple years, and then there came that point where I'm like, man, I miss acting. I miss it so much. And then, I got this thought of like, I've done all this theater, but I love gaming, and, there's other forms of acting beyond theater. Why don't I take a stab at voice acting? And for a bit, I did it sort of as a hobby. I voiced some mods, and I did a lot of free projects before I considered sort of moving to LA just to see, like, do I like the voice acting thing?
Yeah.
And yeah, for a while, I did a couple mods and a couple like indie projects here and there, a couple like fan audio dramas and stuff like that.
And you were auditioning for these, though, even on these forms, right? And you were booking.
Correct.
So that must have said something to you, like, okay, at least I'm good enough to book these.
Yeah. Like the fact that auditions were like getting impressions from people told me, okay, maybe there's something here.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, I didn't want to just like do just go for it without any plan because I want to chase after my dreams. I feel like you should have that passion of like chase your dreams, but you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
And I once I got to a point where I was like, okay, I love this thing. I love doing this. I want to do more of this. I want to be in all these different projects. I decided, okay, I want to move, but I was supposed to move 2 years before I actually moved. So 2017 instead of 2019. But at that point, my channel was just starting to like really take off. And I was like...
I wanted to ask you this too real quick. Was it a slow, gradual grind? Or was there like a video where it was like that was the lightning bolt that like sparked your channel?
Mm-hmm. I'd say for the most part, it was a slow kind of steady build-up. But 2017, when the Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I think the Mass Effect Andromeda stuff, when I started covering sort of what happened there, that's when like the channel kind of really spiked. But it was still like a 5-year journey to get to even that point, or 6 years, And then from there, you know, it was still, it wasn't like from 100,000 to 1 million subscribers in a month or anything. It was still like a relatively steady climb. But I'd say 2017 was the year when my channel finally officially became big. When I was like, okay, I can see the 1 million subscribers now. I can actually do this. So yeah, but overall, I'd say gradual. Some people just achieve like a successful YouTube channel like 2 years already at 1 million. You know, everyone has their own different pace, and that's something that I think a lot of people need to like consider. It's like you don't have to be the guy who knocks it out of the park in year 1 or year 2. For some people, it just takes longer. A combination of circumstance and luck certainly plays a factor into it, being in the right place at the right time and all these things. But yeah, what was I talking about before
when you were like, I have to get into acting, and sorry, but you were
right.
You were making the choice to get into voice acting. Try it.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I want to do this voice acting thing for real as a career. That was 2017, but I was like, the YouTube channel is just starting to like really take off, and I feel like I should just focus on YouTube for like 2 more years, and then I'll make the move. And that's exactly what I did, and I'm so glad I did that, because that plan put me in a financially stable enough position where I could live in LA. Whereas I think if I'd moved in 2017, I'd be kind of struggling a little more financially. But 2 years later, my YouTube channel was over 1 million subs in a good place where I was like, all right, I can afford the rent, be in a location where the studios are, I can like make my reels and afford my reels, and I can just like kick off sprinting. That was my plan. And fortunately, it ended up working out. In 2019, I made the move. And also, that was around the time E3 happened. So I first had to get E3 out of the way and move in and do all that at the same time. And then I got my reels done with Funhouse, with Brock Powell and Bill Farmer. Goofy, for those who don't know Bill Farmer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Around October, November, I got my reels done. And then also took some classes with Bang Zoom, and sort of started to get my toes wet with anime voiceover, which was very different from prelay, you know, with the beeps and the timing with the. So I really wanted to practice that because I knew anime. I wanted to be an anime because I love anime. And eventually, you know, I Dora Fine, I owe her so much. She sort of referred me to Mami Okada. And she said, you just tell her, send her your reels and tell her that I referred you. And that's when I finally started getting my first set of auditions. And she just saw something in me. And Dora, if you're watching this, I freaking love you. And Mommy, man, you've made so many of my dreams come true. And come January, that's when I started to receive auditions from Bang Zoom. Got my first like small part in Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun. And then from there, you know, slowly I started getting more and more gigs, and that snowball just starts to roll, you know, and you get to know other fellow actors, and, you know, you start getting referred to all these things. And then last year, I became part of the SBV agency. Was it last year or this year? Man, time.
We're in 2022, so
yeah. I think it was last year. Last year. I signed with SBV. Tommy Earl Jenkins, he was in Death Stranding, and I did a lot of Death Stranding coverage, being a huge Kojima fan. And I kind of put out this tweet out there. Okay, I'm finally gonna like start looking for an agent. Wish me luck. And Tommy apparently just like saw it and just went, hey, I feel like you're doing really great work, and I feel like you're really passionate about this. So here, contact my agent. I won't guarantee anything. Just like send her your stuff and see what she says. And fortunately, they liked me enough where, they signed me on, and that's when I started getting the AAA game auditions, and it's been a wild ride. But like now that I think about it, when I stop to think about it, man, how crazy is it that I get to do this for a living?
I pinch myself all the time, and I truly love your story because it is a story of you moving into this industry and taking all these steps that require you to not only put yourself out there, but to make a move to a city that's completely brand new to you, take these classes, meet these people, because a lot of people, I get a lot of messages all the time, and people just say like, I want to voice in anime. Where do I do that? And it's like, well, there's a lot of things you have to kind of do. I mean, granted, like you said, people get lucky, but it's such a small percentage of people, and it's so because of things like TikTok, we see all those 0.1% things. And, because there's so many people on this earth and who have social media, when you see like 1,000.1% things constantly filling your feeds, it just seems so easy for these things to happen. But for most of us, it is a journeyman's approach to hard work, creating the demos, taking the classes, meeting the people, moving to a city, networking. Like it takes, and your story is so much of that. And even putting yourself out there to say, hey, look, I'm looking to take the next step. I've already done all this stuff. Look at what's behind me. And somebody saying, yep, that person is taking this seriously. I feel comfortable vouching for this person. I've seen them in the class. So it's not just like some random person that referred you. You've proved
100%.
yourself to a degree. And I love that about your story.
Yeah, I think that's 100% a great point to keep in mind. It didn't just drop on my lap, and I know you said, man, you got here in 2.5 years, you managed to, but it's like my journey really began when I made that jump to audition for that first musical. I've been in this journey for a decade, really. Honestly, that's how I feel, because all of that experience has been building up to me making that move to LA. But my journey didn't start there, really. That was like just me making a bigger leap. But so much built up to where I am today, and it wasn't just a boom thing. It was a slow, steady, lots of hard work, but lots of fun grind. And yeah, you got to put in the work is the main thing. You don't just become a voice actor. You got to study your craft, like with any craft. You just got to work at it until you got to be, I think, self-analytical enough, and that's difficult to know, like, how good am I? But, there come a point where there's like a healthy amount of ego I feel you have to have as an actor, a healthy amount of like, I'm fucking good. I'm good. To give you that confidence, but not so much that you get cocky and think you can't learn anything new, and but enough of a like, I can fucking do this. I got this.
Just enough to say that and then go home at night and cry like, I suck, I'm terrible, and then wake up the next day and be like, actually, I'm good.
Yeah.
Sorry,
exactly.
go ahead.
No, I go through that roller coaster too. There are days where I'm like, maybe I'm not as good, but it's like, it's like when we both look at how far we've come, we're both fucking good at this, man, and we're both gonna kill it.
Yeah, man, high five, dude. I'm
high five, man.
I'm just happy to be doing this with people like you and like Ryan. It's to be able to celebrate and kind of venture into this new. I was talking with Ryan on the phone the other day, and I was telling him, having you on, it's like not to the same extent of like, okay, we're gonna like take over the industry and like see you later, everybody else, but to be people who are new and to kind of like elevate the caliber and quality of these products, because I do feel that in order to break into this industry, you need to offer something that's not been done before.
Yes,
and
100%.
And to for people like us, we have to bring our A game, because there's already tons of people who do what we do already. So we have to raise the stakes, and to tell the people who have been doing this for 10, 20 years who still sound the same way as we do, to be like, step your shit up too, because not that we're literally coming for your jobs, but we're coming for any job. And like, that's the type of ball we're ready to play. That's how I feel. And your performances, I know that is how you feel, whether you believe that or not, because it's just...
But the wonderful thing about fresh blood coming in is that we're all unique human beings, and the uniqueness of each of us is what I think in large part gets us those roles where they're like, nobody else could play this, because there's something about this person's unique life experiences and whatever it might be that shape them to be exactly just the right kind of fit. Because when you get to the top 5 candidates for this one role, it's like they're all good as hell. But it's like, what's that one little thing that makes this guy or this girl or this, this individual, this unique individual, be perfectly suited for our vision for this character? And that's where like fresh blood and having unique new perspectives and from a new generation, that's where that is invaluable. That's where they can find new characters that, comes from just like a new generation of unique and talented people coming in.
And
that's what I think we can bring.
Yeah, and it's so exciting for even it's a very weird thing, and I'm still because there's so much more voice acting in video games, because obviously as voice actors there's just so many different genres of the sport that we are in, and video games, it's like we are elevating, like by us being an actor, we elevate the quality of gaming experience. So it's like two very separate things that have such a unique marriage that for me and for you, it's so beautiful to think like, okay, the better job I do as my job as an actor, the better video games get. Like, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah, I know. Like to be able to have like some kind of influence in people's experiences, and hopefully it be a positive one. To me, that I love that prospect. As someone who loves the medium and has gotten so much joy and insight and just so many cool experiences from gaming, because these voice actors really pour their hearts into these characters. To me, to have the opportunity to do the same for maybe another generation of gamers, or that's bliss for me. That's surreal to me.
Oh, it's right here too. Did you have any like maybe not voice actors, but anybody? Did you have actors who you looked up to or aspired to, performances that really were like, man, I want to do this? Like, how did did that influence your path to go into voice acting?
Yeah, well, one of the most like the first like sort of shock to the system that I got in terms of like, oh wow, video games can be this cinematic and tell this kind of storytelling was like Metal Gear Solid, the very first Metal Gear Solid. The music kicks in, the best is yet to come. The snake is swimming. Like, I remember that scene so vividly in my head. And then, Colonel, can you hear me? Like that first, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, it felt like a movie, like I was playing a movie. And then that evolved, and then The Last of Us was huge for me. Troy Baker's performance there, I gotta say, man, that was the moment I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
One day I want to make something like this, something that's this emotionally resonant to people, something this genuine, and something that tells this level of sort of truth about these characters who we can on some level relate to. Last of Us was the nail in the coffin that made me go, this is my career. I got to do this.
It's so good. And that was that next step though. But people like, Troy Baker and Nolan North and these people who have gotten these titles, these new franchise games like The Last of Us, Uncharted, it's elevating the way, like we were just saying, people are experiencing video games. And obviously video games, it's happening too, but it's also happening in anime right now. It's happening in animation.
Absolutely.
And I mean, JoJo's is so lucky to have you and to have the ensemble. I mean, even Kira, you have these people who are so passionate about these franchises and these properties, and it's like it only helps raise the quality. Were you a big fan of JoJo's, and what was that whole, you getting that audition, getting booked? What was that whole process for you?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. My brother introduced me to JoJo, and a couple friends they kept talking about just how freaking bizarre and ridiculous this show was, and I'm like, well, isn't that just typical anime? They're like, no, even by anime standards, JoJo takes it to a whole new level. I'm like, all right, I got to check this out. And man, first part isn't like as bizarre, but then part 2 gets pretty crazy. Part 3 gets crazier, and then it just gets crazier and crazier every season. So at that point, I had seen enough JoJo where I was like, one day, if the heavens allow, I hope to be in JoJo as a background character. I don't care, just any role in JoJo, I'd be ecstatic. That'll happen like 10 years, maybe 10 years. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'll get there someday, maybe.
Keep dreaming, kid.
And then, keep dreaming, kid. Yeah, exactly. And then, part 5 concluded, part 6 auditions started coming on. And there's one of those like luck factors where like I happen to sort of have made an impression with like mommy enough that she would send me auditions in like right place, right time. I happened to move in just around the time when JoJo Part 6 was starting to go into productions. Like all these things came together. But, luck is very much that whole, when opportunity meets preparation. It's like that lucky moment happens, but if you're not prepared to seize the moment, you might miss out, And fortunately, I happened to be at the right place at the right time where JoJo Part 6 was in production. I got that audition for Weather Report and Poochie. And I did my audition for both, but there's something about Poochie just felt really right for me. And I had read a bit of the manga. I hadn't gotten to part 6 by then. But I knew enough about Pucci, having sort of read the wikis and stuff like that, where I'm like, I really feel like I could do this character justice. And so I usually with an audition, you don't want to do like a million takes, because it gets muddled in your head and you start sort of like not knowing, oh God, what's good, what's
impossible to decide between them at that point. Yeah.
But this is one of those roles that I wanted so badly that I really just like went through that script over and over and over again. I listened to myself over and over and over again. And this is one of those rare instances where I'm glad I did 10, 15 takes or something, because I knew there was something very specific I was looking for that when I heard it, I knew it felt right. And the very last good take that I did for that character, I put as my first take. And then takes 2 and 3, that happened to be the take that got me the part. But funny enough, I didn't know I got the part until in the middle of a session, because in JoJo, you play both your character and your stand, right? Your apparition that gives you the powers. And my first session, I wasn't sent an email saying, congratulations, you got this, and this part. I was just told by my agent, okay, you got this session for Pale Snake or White Snake, who is Pucci's stand. For some reason, my brain didn't put 2 and 2 together that the same voice actor voices both the character and the stand. And maybe there was a subconscious part of me that was like, don't hope, because if it turns out for some reason they're voicing them separately, I'll be crushed. So I'm like, all right, I got Pale Snake, I got White Snake, I'm satisfied. I mean, that's bigger than anything I thought I'd ever get in a JoJo. I was already ecstatic. Like, I'm playing the stand of a main villain. Incredible. That's it. I'm in. I do the session. Second session comes around. They're like, all right, so all right, next session we got you for some Pucci. I'm like, what do you mean? I play White Snake, right? I play Pale Snake. They're like, well, yeah, you're playing Pucci as well. He's the stand, and that's I had a freak out in the middle of the session in front of the director, finding out right there. So yeah, that was one of the most joyful days of my life. I never conceived in a million years I had the remotest chance of getting this part, because there's so much incredible talent out there that I'm like, these actors would be perfect for this role. Like, there's so many actors that I had them, and I'm like, they'd do this one justice. Hell, yeah, I don't have a chance, but I'll put my best foot forward anyway. But then to like get that notification of like, no, you got it, dude. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it, frankly. Like, the fact that my life somehow, with all this chaos, somehow built up to this moment where I got this part that's like this dream role. It's crazy to think about, man.
Well, you deserved it, and I love hearing the joy of you reliving it, because it just that I love seeing that kind of love and care for the characters, and even when your character is a messed up villain, it's like we still care about putting that much effort into it. And it also goes to show, as you know, and for people listening who are aspiring to be voice actors, and I say aspiring because you haven't made any sort of commitment towards the genre. I think labeling yourself as an aspiring actor at a certain point becomes detrimental and less helpful.
I agree.
But if you're considering getting into this industry, if you decide to invest your heart and soul in an audition, sometimes, like you were saying, it can be to your detriment too. You can get so obsessed, and things will not even sound like words anymore. You'll doubt every choice you made. But just like in theater, and I think maybe this is where your theater, talk about what led you up to this moment, like mining the material. There's a reason why people have rehearsals in theater. It's not just to memorize the lines. Like, you do that on your own time. You do rehearsals to find the character, to find the nuance, to find the story, to find the arc of that character. And if you can show that in an audition, that is what stands out amongst the sea of very similar sounding auditions. Because you look at the specs, it says like menacing, it says like cruel, and everyone latches onto these keywords, and then the lines, there's only so much you can do when you're just reading them. But when you go in and mine for the backstory, you start, making things personal, you personalize these things to you, is where you find that little, and that's where you have that little ting, that little tang that makes 100%. You sound like, that person's, I don't know what it is, but it's something about that just feels right on them.
Yeah. and you can hear it in your, like, when it doesn't even sound like you, you know, and it sounds like somebody else. It's like, that's when you're like, this is interesting. Whatever I did with this, I think this is it. And you can kind of feel it. And you know, I had a Catholic background. This character being this like priest, I'm kind of familiar with like elements of nuances that priests add to their sermons and stuff like that. I played this priest once in this musical called Spring Awakening, and there's like elements of that I brought into this audition, but then like added that layer of menacing. I wanted him to have both that element of like almost like comforting, like a father figure who's like, come my child, I will guide you, but also underneath that, but if you don't follow what I say, I'll fucking kill you. You know, it's like I wanted to have a little bit of both seeping through, and so like that's what I kept in mind, and that's where I really mined. It wasn't just repetition for the sake of it. It was like, I'm looking for a very specific thing, and then when I heard it, I'm like, I think this is it.
So well done. So well done. And it's like that, it sounds, and I mean, granted, we're talking about a career where we're saying lines. Like, anybody can say lines. Anybody, you find somebody in Walmart and you hand them a script, they can read those lines, but it doesn't make it good. Yeah. We're talking about splitting hairs, and that's what is going to separate you sometimes from booking that role or not. And when you can layer those two things, and it sounds really easy when you say it, but to do that and to embody that is a whole other level of commitment, and bravo to you, and there's a reason why you got that role, and it's even more satisfying for someone like me to hear about that when you know it means so much, man. So kudos.
And you know that, and that process isn't always going to pan out. Sometimes I've poured certainly a certain amount of like that level of effort in certain other roles, and I'm like, I need this so bad. I didn't get it, and that's okay. You know, it's just Ryan put this eloquently. You're destined to play the roles you're destined to play because of just like who you are as an individual, unique person. It's like those roles will find you. It once, like, if you put the groundwork in and like you've established yourself as a seriously working actor who is taking it seriously and loves the craft and just has fun with it and plays with it, those roles will come your way. And with Poochie, that kind of proved the points. Like it'll find you. It's not that you're a bad actor if you don't get the protagonist part and the whatever. It's just like there's something about that other actor that makes them uniquely qualified for this specific vision of what they're looking for. And it's all subjective, ultimately. It really is, especially when you're getting to the top 5 candidates and you're really splitting hairs at that point. But it's just like the stars will align here and there, and when that happens, it makes it all worth it.
Heck, you know? Yes. Is there a show or a game or a anime? Is there something that's very much like JoJo's, or that for you is like your golden goose of to do that would be really cool? And obviously, I mean, who knows? You might be doing it already for all I know with NDAs and stuff. But is there something that like for you growing up had such a big impact on you, whether it was a game or a show or something that would be that kind of like, you've pat your younger self on the back and then you're just like screaming, or even new, because I mean there's some games right now and you're reviewing them. I mean, maybe there's something new that you'd love to be a part of. I mean, well, the fact that I get to be in God of War Ragnarok is that's one of my favorite games of all time. The 2018, it's literally like top 5. And it's truly just an honor to be a part of the new one. I'm not like a major character per se, but you'll get to kill me quite often. So as one of the enemies, so that's great. You'll tear me apart limb from limb. Fantastic. But that was so much fun. But growing up, Hideo Kojima is such an influential figure. And to be able to work with him on anything, really, Death Stranding, whatever, horror game he might be cooking up, I don't know, whatever it is he's working on, to be in any sort of Kojima project and to be able to collaborate with him, with his fascinating way of looking at the world and applying his worldviews to his games, that would send me screaming, and that would be a dream come true. I hope to work with, Naughty Dog, I Last of Us being the thing that got me into voice acting. And I hope to work with them on a project with that level of, sort of nuanced performances and really diving deep into who these people are and really create full-fledged, three-dimensional, vulnerable, yet tough and still like trying to survive it out characters. But man, Final Fantasy is also a big one, that's near and dear to my heart. Man, there's a lot, man. There's so much that would make me scream in joy and So what are like what is like video game wise, and we're not gonna say favorite because I know it's hard to like pick your favorites. But what are what are 3 games? I mean, you said like Kojima and Death Stranding, but like throughout the archives of life that had like the most that either impressed you, like blew you away with how maybe it might not be your favorite, but it just blew you away at how whatever it was, graphical, storyline, acting, or just left an impact on you, or something that set itself out, that like even from like a reviewing standpoint, where what was something that you just marveled at that was made.
Yeah. I mean, I've brought up Metal Gear Solid, so the other big one I'd say is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
I remember my friend bringing his N64 to my house. I'd seen Link for the first time in Super Smash Brothers for N64. I was like, who's this, I don't know, elf-looking dude, I don't know, whatever, with the green hat.
Why does he only go, hut?
Yeah, exactly. And like a little cool, cute little dress, I guess. I don't know, I don't know. My dumb kid mind just didn't know how influential this character would be. But then this friend brought over his N64 to my place, put the cartridge in, booted up, and I remember it was in the Temple of Time. The music started kicking. Link was in his red tunic, and then he started moving around this. I was like, what? What is this? And then he goes out. There's the castles in the post-apocalyptic 7 years later timeline. The Re-Deads all over the freaking market area, and then he goes out from there into the open world Hyrule field. Nothing like this I had ever seen in 3D form. 3D was new at this point. N64 sort of and PS1 pioneer 3D gaming. This was all, well, I guess SNES on some level, but like full-fledged 3D. Just to see this open world that you could explore and adventure through. This was the first game that really made me feel like I was going on an adventure, on a quest, and that the world was open to me to explore, and there's mystery to find at every corner. That feeling was evoked so powerfully by Ocarina of Time that I'd say it's my favorite game.
Wow.
Straight up.
It's up there for me too.
And I know
gosh.
There are aspects of it that haven't aged, but to me, a favorite game of all time isn't about like what's mechanically the best. To me, it's like what is the impression that game left on you? What is the memory it left you with? And to me, Ocarina of Time, it left me with a level of awe that made me go, so this is where gaming's headed. Holy shit! It's not just Tetris, and it's not just a toy anymore. It's an experience. It's an interactive experience. You will get lost. I mean, 10 years down the line, imagine where games will be. And here we are. And man, look at how far games have come. So Ocarina of Time is a big one. I'd say FromSoft games. I've become a fan of them recently, sort of in the past 2 years actually. But Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Elden Ring. I'd say what Ocarina of Time was to my childhood is what Elden Ring is to my adulthood. It's that game that at a constant pace made me go, how is this video game possible? How have they made this? How is it that at every couple minutes my jaw's dropping and I'm surprised by the depth and breadth of content and enemy variety and stuff to find? Like, it gave me that same feeling. So Elden Ring gets huge kudos. Last of Us, God of War. There's so many games I could really.
Is there something
Ocarina of Time is?
I mean, same for me. Ocarina of Time, and we've talked about it a bunch of times on here. It's just had such a. I'm surprised I haven't gotten a Triforce tattoo yet, but who knows? Still got a lot of time left to do that if I want to. Is there a game or something that you're excited for to come out that's been announced that you're like, I can't wait to play that or to talk about that, to make videos about that?
Yeah. Oh man. God of War Ragnarok is sort of the game that I'm really excited about this year. Elden Ring's already come out, and then beyond that, it's like everything got delayed basically. But I love the original God of War so much. That father-son story, aspects of it, which I could relate to. Not the whole my dad was God of War or anything, but just there sometimes there's strains in the relationship, and my dad and I, we love each other very much, but every once in a while there are those moments that you recall, you're like, man, there was some strain here, some strain there. Every relationship can occasionally go through that, and to like have that sort of put in such a relatable way in God of War, I thought was amazing, and I'm very curious to see how they develop that relationship further with Ragnarok, and also to freaking see Ragnarok, all right? I mean, at that level of graphics fidelity. Beyond that, I think FromSoft accidentally leaked that their next game is going to be Armored Core. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's basically mechs. So it's a mech Souls-like. I mean, mechs are like my shit. So a mech Souls-like is like that's my dream come true right there. So that next FromSoft game, I'm really, really pumped for. Oh man, there's probably tons of others that I'm just like, my brain's not.
Well, let me bounce off to this next question here, because I was actually, you just made me remember it, because I know you used to do like Let's Plays and stuff. You had like Yong Plays, right?
Yeah.
And I remember watching your video where you were like, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's just like, my gaming experience has changed from like, I don't feel like I'm having that same effect or that same feeling about gaming when I'm doing it for other people, or at least with other people watching. Maybe it's not for them, but do you still are you still capturing that same feeling you've had as a kid gaming? And do you feel that it's just for you specifically, it's not something that you're going to be able to enjoy with like other people like hovering over you while you're doing it? Because I feel the same way. I have a hard time playing certain games on Twitch or whatever, because I just feel like it's not that private, influential moments that I used to have as a kid.
Some of my best gaming experiences happen when I go off the beaten path and just like start doing random stuff, especially in open world games. And I feel like if I play the way I usually like to play, it'll bore or frustrate people. And so I feel pressure to like just stay on the path and like do the things that are exciting for people to watch or for me to react to. And so it just feels like I'm just like playing in an inauthentic way just to please the audience anytime I play in front of people, because I want to keep them entertained. I don't want them to tune in and just be bored by me like picking apples in Zelda, Breath of the Wild or whatever. But it's like I love just like God, like there was this one time I was playing by myself where like an apple started rolling down the hill and I just started chasing this apple for some reason, and then it led to this really cool discovery. Like that's why I do weird random stuff like that. And I feel like people aren't open to me just making mistakes, when I keep dying to a boss or whatever. People are like, oh my God, Jan, come on, you should be better than this at this point. And I'm just like, I'll play at my own pace, And so it's just stuff like that I'm like, I'm not enjoying the game when I feel like I'm being steered in a certain direction, when I have to feel like I have to steer myself instead of just like organically playing the game the way it was meant to be played. So I'll occasionally do like a 1 hour, 2 hour stream of like the first 2 hours of a game or something like that. But to play a game in its entirety on stream, I can't do it anymore. It's just, that needs to be a private time for me, where I can really not have to worry about anything, what people are saying. It's just me, the game, fully immersed, and just being there in the present in the moment. That's
it's a similar feeling for me, and it's nice to hear somebody who has to like, when I saw you make that video, it's a very kind of admirable thing to say. It's like, for me, this is not something I'm enjoying right now. And while you could milk that horse and you could do the whoa, that's crazy type of thing, and you could clip those moments and you could make a career out of that alone. It's just to say like, no, to me, and the way I experience in games, it's much more important for me to have that, because you don't want that to, that's why I was curious if that had a lingering effect on you. But obviously, if you're able to enjoy them still, that's fantastic. And I think, if there's one thing that's like sort of diminishing a bit of my passion for gaming, it's a lot of the BS that I report on, the monetization. Here's the thing, like when you look at movies, it's like, the ticket prices have gone up here and there, but fundamentally, the movie watching experience hasn't really changed. You sit down, you watch the thing from beginning to end, and then you form your opinion on it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And that's that. But gaming has fundamentally changed in terms of how we interact with them because of all this monetization, all this like shady stuff. It's like just seeped their way into gaming, and so it's like once upon a time, I looked forward to EA games, Ubisoft games, all these different companies, and the worst I had to worry about was, am I going to like it or not? Is this going to appeal to me or not? And is it going to be polished enough? That's about it. But now it's like every time a major company announces a game,
it's like my brain always goes into, okay, but what's the catch? What's the catch with this? Certain companies like FromSoft, like I kind of trust more. But even now with CD Projekt, sort of, I trusted them completely, like just completely. I was like, no way they're gonna release a broken product. Like it's just, they've said it'll be out when it's ready, and I believe them. I wanted them to be the golden standard of what AAA companies should be so much that I feel like I blinded myself on some level. And so that was heart crushing to me. And so now, like, my trust in gaming companies has just really, really gone down. Like, I look at everything from the lens of what's the catch, and every time I'm like, prove me wrong, prove my pessimism wrong, make my videos age like old milk, and that would be the most incredible thing, because I don't want to be right about my pessimisms. But it's just like, I've been right enough times where I'm like, it's hard not to be paranoid now these days about game
when you
releases.
see those articles, which you just made a video about, where you have the former EA CEO just basically saying, like, you're an idiot if you're not exploiting these people who are, you know, doing the Diablo Immortal, where it's like, we want you to, just continue to keep spending money, because you'll never be the best unless you do it. It's just, that's the way the game is designed.
Yeah, he's saying if you, as someone in a position of power and influence, don't outsmart people and extract all the money from them, then you're stupid, because you're not benefiting from somebody else's expense. That's the message you put out there. Why would you not want to just benefit at the expense of others? You have so much to gain. That's the message he's putting out there. And if that's what gaming is going to become, then, you know, it's like that's a really sad thing. But there's so many good things about gaming, though. The way I like to put it is like, the highs are some of the highest we've ever seen, but the lows are some of the lowest ever in the history of gaming these days. So I try to, you know, I call out a lot of the lowest of lows, because I really feel passionate about this industry having to steer itself a little bit into away from the iceberg, if you will. Because when it's good, man, it's freaking good. When a game like Elden Ring comes out, it reminds you, like, oh, that's right. That's why I freaking love this. That's why I love playing these games. That's what made me fall in love with this. When a game like God of War comes out, you're reminded, this is why this medium is, for me, the best medium ever. Like, I love movies, I love anime, I love it, you know, but gaming is just special to me. And I just want it to be better in certain aspects. I don't want to be paranoid about games anymore, but it's like, you have to be these days, and it sucks.
We work hard for this money, and people, you know, like, the relationship was, for a long time, you spend $50, you get a game that's going to last you for a while, and there's not going to be any other gimmicks with that. It's like, we have this agreement, like, okay, here, you give me this money and you get this story, and that's it. Or you get this experience that we've promised you from the upfront. Now there's like so many other aspects to things, and even while I do love the DLC model, I still feel like there's like this aspect of it where it's like, you're not going to get the whole game. You're going to have to buy 3 of these games, or you're going to have to buy 5 of these games, or it's, you know, it's a very interesting industry now, where it's definitely not the same as it was when we were growing up.
No, it's not. Like, the analogy I always like to present is like, imagine somebody sells you a pie, but you notice, wait, there's a slice missing. They go, oh, no, this is the full package. This slice is just DLC. Here you go. That's just an extra slice. And it's like, no, it should have been part of the. I can see you cut out the slice, dude. It's like it feels like that so much of the times.
The only instance in which I can respect it is like what Final Fantasy is doing, in my opinion, because it does feel like they have created an entire, like, a game experience within what they're doing. It's much different than when, like, to me, that's like a separation.
100%. There are 2 scenarios. There's some where, like, oh, this is a full game, and then they actually added an extra slice of pie on top of the full pie. And it wasn't like they took out a slice. And then other instances, you're like, well, clearly you could have just put that in there, but you're selling it separately because you want to monetize. So it's like, that's like killing some of the passion, but I'm always going to be passionate about games. we can just be better, I think.
Let me ask you this, because this is an interesting question to ask someone like you. I feel like it's very particular for your circumstance. As someone who is very critical of game studios, call them out. You have no shame in literally saying these people are effing exploiting the shit out of you. As a voice actor, does that give you any sense of, like, what if these people hire me and then they walk me into the office and then they're like, Yong, you're going to apologize because of what you've said? Like, does that, like, as a voice actor, do you have any sense of, like, I'm not going to work on these projects, or like maybe it's not even the fact of like what you're doing is not even associated with like the exploitation parts of some of these companies. So like, what is your opinion on that as a voice actor? Does that change your opinion of how some of these companies work or not? Does it curb maybe what you want to say or not?
I will never trade my real life voice for the voice of a fictional character. Period. My voice, being able to have opinions and being able to express them, to me, that's way more important than any fictional character, no matter how much I want to voice them. So look, if a company's like, oh, you said this bad thing about us, we're not going to hire you for anything, fuck it. There's so much work out there. And I don't need one company to pretend like they can hold something over my head. And like, if you don't want to hire me because I have things to say about the games industry, fair enough. You don't have to hire me. And it's really that simple. Like, to me, that autonomy is the most important thing. And I always hope to keep conversations constructive and, all these things. But at the end of the day, I'm sure I've pissed off some studios or some creative heads who are like, we will never have this guy in our game. Fair enough. There's so much other great work and great characters out there that aren't involved in all this seedy, shady stuff that... but at the same time, if like a studio brings me in and they're like, we need you to voice this character, and it happens to be Call of Duty or whatever, which I've criticized in the past, it's like, look, if you're gonna hire me as an actor, I'm gonna give you 110% as an actor, because I don't think Star Wars Battlefront 2 having pay to win loot boxes has anything to do with Matthew Mercer's performance.
Heck no, that's how I feel too. It's
what I mean?
The games that are being played have nothing to do with really the I don't want to say creative, but the creative aspects that we're a part of. This is way above on a different food chain that it's not even politics that I feel voice actors should have to worry about.
Yeah, I agree. Like when like with Star Wars Battlefront 2, when all that jazz happened, it's not the fault of like. There were things to compliment about that game. I thought the artists, the way they recreated, Star Wars characters and models, and they did a fantastic job with the visuals of the game and all these things. But so it's like when I talk ill of Battlefront 2 and like the kind of negative impact that's had on the industry, it's not about any of that. It's not about the visuals, the graphics, the music, because all that stuff is what's good, and it's the potential that got ruined. That's what really gets me. It's like you had something there. Look at the work that the developers put in, and then you tarnish that potential with this seedy gameplay loop, this seedy monetization system, and you made all their work be for naught. Because now people are going to remember that game by the pay-to-win stuff instead of all the stuff that it did do well, and including the performances. It's like, Matthew Mercer's not going to flaunt Star Wars Battlefront 2 because that game has such a negative reputation, even though I thought his performance as Luke Skywalker was really, really on point. It's like, it sucks that is a situation sometimes voice actors have to be in. Like with Cyberpunk, I feel like a lot of voice actors couldn't really voice their enthusiasm for being in this game that's like still really good. There's so much awesome stuff about that game, but a lot of seedy stuff happen on on a managerial level that warranted criticism.
It's a very unfortunate thing, but that's one of the things I love about you and your voice and your community and what you do on YouTube, is because it is so you're what I would like to consider like someone who is like a truth shooter. This is the truth of what I'm experiencing. And I mean, the irony of the fact that you're like telling the truth as an actor or, trying to portray the truth. I mean, that's a whole separate thing. But what you really do is in such a critical way, I truly love, and I think the industry needs more people like you. I mean, honest to God, these studios need to hire like people like you as consultants on these games and just say, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, what do you think? What is your opinion? Whether we take it or not, that's beyond the point. But like, what are the people who are not afraid to voice their opinion from a critically and oftentimes constructive criticism point?
Yeah.
Like what should we be looking towards? What should we be looking at? Because I feel like there are certain companies that are thinking like, this is the last game we're ever going to make. We got to milk every last dollar before no other dollar ever exists again. And it's that's the part that's unfortunate for me as a voice actor, is when I'm seeing like that type of stuff and you're reading for it and you're like, do I want to read for this or not? But for me, I fall in love with characters and I fall in love with storytelling, and that's where my stance is on that. But for you as a content creator, I just love that you speak up for people like me and for many other people. A lot of people who are afraid to speak up and say they're the discourse they have with choices studios are making, or whatever it might be. It's very important.
Yeah, I'm in the fortunate position of like, my livelihood doesn't depend on, for me, voice acting is a passion project. It's not something that I'm pursuing to be like, I need the money. I do it because I love it, period. Like, by being in LA, like I could live in Delaware where there's no sales tax, rent is cheaper. I could save money by being in Delaware, but I just wouldn't be as happy as I am right now doing this thing that I love. And I'm in this fortunate position where I have YouTube, which is this aspect of my career that I love, that is my financial support. And so if, God forbid, my voice acting career goes down in flames, I'll survive.
I have a hard time believing that'll ever happen.
Not everyone is in that.
You're kind of in this for, I think, a little bit longer, my friend. It's just you've graced us too much.
You know what? I'm down for that. But yeah, if certain studios, won't hire me for whatever reason, it's like, I'll survive. I'm not afraid of studios shutting me out or blacklisting me just because I have things to say, because everyone has things to say, and to try to diminish that is a scummier thing than someone saying, I think this game could be better, or I think practices surrounding this game.
God, that's so that. I mean, I love you for that, man. That is such a admirable thing, and again, it's a lot of people appreciate that. I'm sure that's what your fans, the people who show up to every one of your videos, they love that you speak on behalf of them. So I'm sure there's a lot of people like want to say thank you for that, and that's got to be exciting now as a voice actor to kind of go to these conventions and for people to be like, to know you now as the voice actor, obviously, but it's like, I also love your videos. That's got to be a little bit of a cool experience to have, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, as a content creator, you're like sort of in this sort of locked in environment. You got your camera, your computer, and it's like in this room, and you're just constantly churning out content here by yourself, and it's like, it's sometimes easy to forget, like, there are people who are like watching this stuff and they're getting something out of it, and so it's a reminder of like, right, I'm making this content because I genuinely want to keep people informed, and because we have common interests about games, and to be able to like meet these people and like share that, like, we have this thing in common. It's a reminder of like, this is why I make content, to make sure to have it resonate with people, and hopefully in a positive and informative way, and hopefully I keep improving. I'm not perfect.
Wait, you're not perfect
as a content creator.
Damn, I thought we were all perfect. Crazy.
Impossible. But every day it's a learning opportunity, and I hope to just get better at both my craft and the way I present things, and just keep on,
of course,
this journey.
If you could give, we have a question here from one of our fans, and then I've got typically I say this question to voice actors, but I want to ask this as twofold for you. So the first part of it is, if you could give one piece of advice to the gaming industry as a whole, as the entity, what would that piece of advice be to the gaming industry?
Man. One piece of advice, huh?
Well, it doesn't have to be the only, but the one that you're like, if I have to, bestow some sort of statement, like your yearbook quote, like this is like the yearbook quote. If you had to leave that one thing, you can't leave two. What would be like the one thing you'd say? That at least that maybe has been coming up for you a lot, or just even a comment. It doesn't have to be like a hard piece of advice or anything, or a criticism. It could just be a comment.
I think we just need to communicate more amongst each other. It just feels like game development is such a black box, and everything's so secretive. Like in Hollywood and film, it's like a project gets greenlit, we find out about it pretty soon. Like, it's not, like the reason Norman Reedus blurted out Death Stranding 2 was happening was because that's what he's used to. He doesn't think like, oh, I'm supposed to keep this on the hush hush, because that's not the industry he's used to. The gaming industry is like very specifically, particularly secretive, and I feel like just like opening up communication, sort of filling people in on aspects of the development process so they understand, because I feel like a lot of times developers are misunderstood by people. They think, oh, just add this thing, it's easy. It's like you don't know what one simple addition, how that could break the whole game. You know what I mean? It's like this whole jigsaw puzzle you have to like, so it's like just opening up that communication a little more and having just more back and forth. And taking people's feedback a little more seriously in certain aspects, because some stuff when they announce like, oh, this monetization scheme, it's like, how have we not learned at this point? And I think part of it is, a lot of developers just don't have a choice. They have to listen to the higher ups who don't care about backlash. As long as the money is in, as long as the people who are meant to be exploited are exploited, who cares what this vocal minority have to say? And so it's not necessarily up to them sometimes, but I just feel like if we all just talked a bit more amongst each other and fill each other in on things, it could, mend some bridges, and we could be a little more empathetic towards each other. But also on the audience side of things, it's just fans sometimes are so vicious that developers are afraid to be open and communicative, and I totally 100% get that. It's like I mean, I've faced some occasional, attacks here and there, email, comment, whatever, but nothing that I deal with is anything like what developers deal with, man. Some of especially like female developers, they get some of the worst, most disgusting, vile messages I've ever seen. And I don't know what drives any sad individual to, put themselves out there like that. So it's like it's difficult when fans are so vicious. It's like it doesn't make developers feel comfortable to open up a little bit, but I feel like the effort could be made to just like form bridges,
have more communication. I mean, granted, that's I think advice for any industry and for humanity as a whole, which is
any relationships really. Yeah. Honestly, communication is so important to anything really, and I feel like that's where things are a little disjointed in the games industry.
Yeah, and I think we as fans, we invest in companies and we give them our trust, and we show up with our credit cards and our dollars to support, and we also feel like sometimes, like, whether a project's constantly being pushed back and we're not being told why something's happening, or we're just not getting any communication whatsoever about what's happening with that. They announced it or they didn't announce it, and now we're kind of left in the dark. I feel like if you as a developer make the choice to enter into this arena, it's like there's some protocols, or like there's an agreement you're making with the world and the community, and it's hard to just kind of like have somebody, like have a bunch of people fall in love with you and then just go kind of rogue and not expect a little bit of agitation from these people who have now been entranced by what you've put out into and charged for. It's not like you're giving these games away for free.
Exactly. It's not charity. It's like, this is a business transaction, and it's a pact you're making with people. It's like, you pay us $60 and we're going to give you something that you'll find worth 60 or now $70. And it's like, you gotta not take that for granted, because people work hard for $70, I'm in the fortunate position where, but once upon a time for me, $70 was a huge amount of money. I grew up poor. My family grew up poor, so I know what it's like to be in a place of like, I only have one game that I can pick for the next couple months, and if that one game happens to be microtransactions infested and a total disappointment because of how it deceitfully marketed itself and made me buy the game only for me to get something that I have to wait months for it to get finished, or or who knows, months later maybe they'll introduce new microtransactions that will make it worse. It's like there are people out there who are relying on this one purchase to be a worthwhile purchase, and like if you betray that, I know what it's like to have that heart crush. So it's like you it's like don't be a dick about that. Understand that there's some responsibility that comes with taking people's money for something that they want to enjoy.
Gosh, it's so true. And so the tandem question to this is, what would the one piece of advice you'd give to yourself, the younger Yong, getting into this voice acting industry or becoming an aspiring YouTuber, whatever it might be? What would be the thing you'd tell yourself that you now know, that you wish you kind of known earlier, which could, for our sakes, be for a lot of our listeners out there, what would be that one thing you'd tell yourself that you uniquely experienced?
Man, it's I guess believe in yourself. Really, that's one of the things I have most difficult with. Like I'm bad at taking compliments. Like when people compliment me, I think on some level, man,
what do they want?
I don't know, like. Yeah, what do they want? Like, I don't know. It's just, I find it difficult for me to think that I'm like at the same level as some of these people that I admire and whatever. And it's more and more lately, I'm like, I've had to overcome that. Again, there has to be a healthy amount of like, fuck it, I'm good. That has to be there because when you come into like a session, it's like you have to have a certain poise and confidence and like just free yourself up from all these negative thoughts and just like be there to play. Know that you're good at what you do. Forget about that and just have fun. Like that's when the best comes out of me as an actor. But every once in a while, I'll get in my head. I'll be like, oh, this specific director. Like there's one. Chris Zimmerman is. She directed all the Metal Gear games, and when I'm directed by her, I get a little nervous. I really don't want to disappoint her. You know what I mean? It's like, but that's like the last thing I should be thinking about. That's almost selfish because you're there to help the directors and producers find what they want, but also along the way have fun with it. And eventually I do ease into it, but there's still moments like that where I think I'm not good enough, or I don't believe in myself enough. And it's like I have to constantly remind myself, like, dude, you're doing it. And for my younger self, you will be doing it. It wasn't an easy choice to be like, yeah, let's just move to LA and become a voice actor, or let's just drop college, the thing that I've been primed to like believe is my future, and do this YouTube thing that like what even is YouTube career? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like back then, especially 10 years ago, it was a very different landscape. Now it's like YouTube career is like, yeah, no, it's possible. 10 years ago, it was like, yeah, like what? It's this nebulous thing that may or may not work out. It's worked out for some, but like, how am I gonna make a career out of uploading videos like that? That was a crazy concept at the time. And so just to like, if you love something, just work at it and then believe that you can do it. There comes a point where you have to acknowledge you're good at it. And so like, don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back and tell yourself, damn, dude, you're good.
I love that.
Don't get cocky. You can get better.
I love that. That's so well said. And it's we hear people say a version of that a lot, but I think the way you just kind of phrased it was so beautifully put, that it is that balance of cockiness but confidence. It's confidence in yourself, and if you've done the hard work, you've earned. People are calling you in. Chris is calling you in for a reason. She's not calling anybody else up. Like, she's not just going in the phone book or whatever it might be and just, let's try this person out. No, this is someone, this is someone operating at the highest level of what they are doing. And if they call you in, then you got to have you have to have pat yourself enough on the back to be able to like let go of any ounce of whatever that is. Because then you're going to let them down. If you don't show up to whatever you put out there in that audition, because we're pretty comfortable in our homes with no one sitting here criticizing us. But the other part of that is now you got to do that for other people, sometimes producers, sometimes it's people who have no idea. I literally, here's a little tidbit, and then we'll get our question from our audience. I did a commercial job the other day for insert any name brand of whatever. I'm not going to say what it was yet. And these producers, great people, didn't understand a thing about acting. They're like, I want it to sound like this. Like, can you make it sound like this at the end? And I'm like, but what are you trying to achieve here? And you just get to a point where you just have to say it the way that they want. Line reading. They say and you as an actor might go, well, that sounds absolutely terrible. But if that's what they want, there's, you got to have either the enough of your own confidence to say like, hey, great, I want to give you what you have, but do you mind if I give a take? And at the end of the day, the end product is not up to you anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we deal with all these things as actors, and you just got to learn to have the confidence to know that you're there to do the job. As in, you auditioned, you got there for a good reason, and now just have fun. Whatever you can do to have fun.
And like, sit down and think about where you are. Like, I remember how much I celebrated when I got to like 10,000 subscribers. You know what I mean? And now I'm like at 1 million, and somehow some days I feel like I'm not good enough when I'm at a freaking million, when I used to be at 10,000, and that was like a lifetime achievement. It's like, we're there. We're already there. It's just go forward. And but it's like, it's so easy for human beings to like settle into their success and be like, but that's not successful enough. When it's like you're doing the thing, and it's just like, I think having that sense of gratitude and like really appreciating what you have and not taking it for granted will help you go, like, why am I so in my own head about like, am I successful enough when I am successful? And now I can only go up and forward from here, and I pay it forward and I do the work and like just enjoy it. Now you have it. Now enjoy it and like keep at it and see where it goes. And it's like, it's this adventure, and like I have to like learn to think a bit more that way. Now that I'm saying it out loud, it's like, why don't you think about it that way more? But yeah, it's like that's there in my head. It's just sometimes it's easy to like forget that's there. That sense of just like childhood wonder,
perspective,
if you will, and that gratitude.
I mean, gratitude is obviously what it is, and then having those moments to remind yourself of gratitude. But I think in certain circumstances, I wouldn't recommend this. Like if you're climbing on the face of a mountain, like I wouldn't recommend like looking back and look how far you came and being like, look how far I came. But in the sense of a career, it's kind of helpful to kind of be like looking back to be like, wow, I had no jobs. I did no voiceover at a point in time. I had no subscribers. I had nobody caring about anything that I did. And now look how far I've come. And while you might have more aspirations and dreams, it's just like, take a moment to be like, I kicked some ass. I kicked some ass to get where I'm at. And I have a hard time with that too.
And I'm in a position, and I'm in a position where I can kick even more ass. I've like walked through that door and like, there's all this ass kickery waiting for me, and let's just go after it. It's like that. I feel like that's
exactly, dude. Oh my gosh, I love this. Joe, can we please bring up our question here? I want to make sure we get Yong out of here. I've already had him on here for way longer than I have agreed to.
Absolutely. Okay, so the question is from Jack Act. Thanks, Yong. Love your videos. Was there ever a video you had regrets about making, whether it was too hot of a take or your opinion changed?
The videos that I do like take down are the ones where I thought this was accurate information, and then I find out it's inaccurate information. And as I've said, I've made mistakes in the past, and that when that happens, that really sucks because I put bad information out there. But I tend to like do a re-upload where I'm like, here's where this is the bad information, here's the good information. But maybe some people don't check back and they go run with the bad information. So it's like when that happens, when I accidentally or mistakenly or just without doing my pure due diligence present information that shouldn't have been presented, that's when I'm like, I got to take this down, and I got to like make sure people are aware that this was bad info. And then the Cyberpunk 2077 review, I think I didn't handle that. I trusted CD Projekt too much. I gave them too much leeway because I wanted them. I put so much of my hopes and dreams for the games industry on them and what they represent. But I just blinded myself in a lot of ways to that. So I still love many aspects of that game, but I didn't highlight the flaws on a level that I would if it were any other game. And so, I'm a human being.
I was just going to say that. We are only human, and that is like so many, again, it's so easy to cherry pick the things if someone makes one, flub or mistake, and to be like, or even a performance, like, that was so bad, that person's terrible, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, what about like the 9 billion other things that person did and digested, and they were completely content and fine with? It's like, we are only human. We are not computer machines here, It's...
yeah, like I'm not gonna sit here and say I guarantee you I will never make another mistake. I guarantee you I'll make mistakes again. But it's more about like I hope to learn from those mistakes and to correct them where I can, and to like make sure I don't repeat the same mistake twice. It's like make mistakes, just try to not do them twice. Make new mistakes and learn that way and grow as a human. And that's what I
and that's so applicable in acting too. You have to be in a position where you are willing to take risks, be wrong, make mistakes. I mean, it's all subjective anyway at the end of the day, but if you are not willing to make a fool of yourself and stretch your own boundaries and limits as a performer, then you may never find those transcendental experiences and performances, because to get there, it doesn't come without I don't want to say sacrifice, because you don't have to sit there and like give a piece of your soul and like you never get it back and now you're damaged for the entirety of your being. But you have to be willing.
It's like you have to be vulnerable.
You have to be willing to be vulnerable, because we are, at the end of the day, and I said it before, and I believe it about you, we are out here to tell the truth, and we are out here to bring believable performances, and we don't want to sell people on fake crap. I mean, we've experienced content made. I mean, gosh, I mean, anime 30, 40 years ago, it was like no one knew what was going on. So there's a lot of really crappy sounding stuff. But now we have the technology and we have the capability to say, let's have these things at a higher quality of caliber and standard. And I'm so glad we have someone like you, Yong, in this industry, helping us make these stories come to life and reporting on the news and the things on the front lines for gamers out here. You are a genuine gift to this community, both as a performer and as a content creator. And who knows? Maybe we'll get more Lost Judgment, because I'd love to. We gotta have like a like that photo we took. We gotta have a little team up with. We gotta do something together. Good.
A little confrontation.
Gosh, Yong, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a true delight. It's been a pleasure to get to know you even more, and I hope to see you again real soon. If not, just getting a bite in the studio or like in the. Like at this, we're in the same project, even though it's not at the same time. You know how this stuff works.
Right. Yeah. No, man, it's been a blast. It's been really an absolute pleasure to have gotten to know you over the months, almost a year. I don't know. It's time. What is time? But man, no, I your talent is genuinely like inspiring. Like your performances, when I do listen to them, I'm just like, oh, this is freaking good. And this was just a wonderful conversation, therapeutic in some ways, even.
That's the goal.
And man,
we want I mean, I'm sure there's pieces of advice that you said that have landed on me so hard, and I'm sure they have landed on yourself in some way. I hope, because it's really informative, man.
For sure. Absolutely. And dude, congrats on this podcast, and you're really killing it, and you're such a great host. Like, you're really good at like keeping conversations going. It's like this has been seamless for me. It doesn't feel like I'm being interviewed. It just feels like we're hanging out.
Awesome, man. That's so kind of you. I'm terrible at taking compliments too, but I have wonderful people like you and all the other friends who have had on the show, or people that are also in this industry that are gracing people, that anyone listening here with our conversations, because I couldn't do this without the help of people like you and people who have been trailblazing in whatever part of, whether performing, content creating. We've had a lot of people on, and we plan to have a lot more people on. So on behalf of the show and the fans and my team, thank you so much for coming on, Yong. He is. I was gonna say he might be. No, let's. I'm having the mental debate right now with myself. I can't. I'm like two people fighting. He is equally as talented as a voice actor as he is a content creator. I wanted to say he's probably better as a voice actor, but because he just is such. It's such a marvel to see how good, surprisingly. Fantastic he is as someone who was like completely content in doing something else, but his pure love for performing and being a part of the things that he loves, it's just like he's like, I want to do that and I want to be a part of those things. And he's if you haven't seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I don't know if you've seen part 6, his performance as Poochie is like we were talked a little bit about it and the way that he crafted that character. It is so good. He plays the perfect villain, and I mean, JoJo's is one of the most historical pieces of anime, in my opinion. One of the greatest stories with multiple parts that take you down different roads with different kind of storylines along the way, and to see this part of it in this way with him in it is just so amazing. I'm so happy I get to know him, and he got to be part of a great title, and I hope that he gets to do more of the things that he loves, because I love it when people who are actually good people get to win. Like, it's so competitive, and I love people who appreciate the wins. And you saw how his face was lighting up when he was talking about when he
Absolutely.
got that JoJo's confirmation. And
there's probably so many other things that he couldn't say too. I felt like
he
probably has a lot of other shit going on that he wants to immediately tell everyone. But listen, NDAs, man.
Such is the nature of this.
And I just want to say one thing. Young commented about the debacle from Cyberpunk's release. While that was true, and rest in peace, console players, you guys got screwed. You couldn't play the game. But revisit it now. Do yourself a favor. One of my favorite games ever. I'm sure Young played it through and he liked it. But yes, the initial release was terrible.
Yeah.
But as a gamer, talking to the gamers that are listening, do yourself a favor and go play it now. It's fine now. You will have a great experience. Don't miss out on it because of all the criticism from the launch.
Yeah, that's it. That's kind of the part of it, is that the launch really kind of put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Exactly.
But I do think, they were able to kind of get back to what they wanted to. And I hope, even people like Yong, who kind of report on this, the next thing CD Projekt Red decides to do, hopefully it will show that they care about their audience, they care about their fans. I hope that they kind of don't allow that mistake to happen again, because it's kind of put up or shut up point at this time. Great, they fixed Cyberpunk, and that's fantastic, but it took them a long time to get there, and I'm sure the game is great. I'm one of those people as well.
It's inexcusable, yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't gone back and finished it, but I know you keep telling me I got to. I mean, I had fun, it was just like there was things, crashes and stuff, but such is the nature of game development, and it's kind of just like what Yang said, is we got to have communication. We got to be, more open and communicate with the fans and have a dialogue with the creators. It's like we are in a transaction here, and it also feels one-sided at the same time too. Like these studios are just like, here you go, little people. Enjoy, run off, and frolic in the fields now with
play
our greatness.
Unfinished game.
Yeah,
our unfinished game is ready for you to play.
So hopefully that changes.
Please.
Yeah, I hope we have less microtransactions and more just like straight good games. That's my hope. And I'm sure.
So,
go ahead.
Are we? We're anti. Microtransaction here, right? On Fox?
How do about you, man? But yeah, hard stance on the anti-loot box system.
So if you're pro microtransaction, you're basically an anti-poxer. I just wanted to throw that out. You're an anti-poxer.
Listen, we're taking a play out of Yong's book, and we're just saying, listen, dudes, if you're a fan and you love loot boxes and you love that stance, then maybe we're not the podcast for you. I don't know. I mean, you can enjoy it, but you're not gonna like
hashtag anti-poxer in the comments if you don't like microtransactions. Wait, no, you're a okay. You're a poxer if you like them. All right,
yeah,
okay. We're fine here.
You're getting the badge either way. This was a great episode, y'all. So stick around next week. As always, please review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Subscribe on YouTube. We keep saying it, but we'd greatly appreciate it. And thank you guys for just continually showing up and being there, and let us know if there's guests you'd like us to have. We have a lot of cool people planned, but it's been another treat. I will see you, Joe, in a week. I'll be away, but we have an episode still planned, and then we'll be back at it. So right on, kick ass and chew bubblegum, right?
Yeah, well, we're all out of gum, so we'll have to kick ass.
All right.